Hey teachers, welcome to NiceKid. If you choose to have lessons during the winter holiday, you have to watch this video. In this video, I'm going to introduce you what is the winter holiday lesson and how we're going to use the teaching materials. According to its name, Winter Holiday Lesson Package, you may assume that there might be Summer Holiday Lesson Package. That's right. From the year 2021, NiceKid is going to have the Winter and Summer Lesson Package for the clients. In this year, we're going to divide the winter holiday lessons into 4 different levels. The WR1 for the K1B and the K2A students in the major course, the WR2 for the K2B students, the WR3 for the K3 and the G1 students, and the WR4 for the G2 and above students. The W stands for winter and R stands for reading. So in this year, in the winter holiday, we're going to improve the students' reading and comprehension ability. Our teacher who choose to have the lessons during the winter holiday will have lessons from February the 6th to February the 10th, and February the 15th to February the 19th. And our teachers will have the holiday between February the 11th to February the 14th. The students who choose to have the lesson will have 2 lessons per day, 60 minutes in total, and will have the lesson in 10 continuous days. So when you're having the lesson, don't forget to switch the classroom in between the 2 classes. There will be a 5 minutes break between the class 1 and class 2. Now let's come to the WR1. If you don't know where to find the teaching material, you have to go to the Blackboard editor first, and then enter the cloud disk and the authorized resources, and the only one file. You don't have to care about what does that Chinese character mean, and the winter camp. So there are 4 different levels. Let's come to the WR1 first. So let's take the day 1 as that example. You can find there are 4 different teaching materials. So we have 2 different parts. Main reading part and the GR, which stands for guide reading. And in the guide reading, we will have some exercises for the students to practice their reading and comprehension skills. So in the WR1, this kind of lesson, this is the start level. So there will usually be 2 parts. The part 1 stands for the main reading part, and the part 2, which is the GR part, for the second lesson. Gonna use the part 1, only this material. You may notice that there are 49 different slides in this teaching material, but don't worry, if you can't finish the 49 slides in the first 30 minutes lesson, we can leave it for the second lesson. You can only open the part 2 teaching material after you finished the part 1. So you may notice that the difference between the winter holiday lesson package and the major course is that we don't use the icons. Instead, we want the students to know the letters. So when you're reading, it's not only the listening training, it's about the reading and to understand the words. So you may notice that there is an independent reading frame. That is for the cameras. If you want to drag the student's camera down into the independent reading frame without changing its size, you can drag the students down while pressing the control on the keyboard. And if you're using a Mac operation system, you can press the command while dragging the student's camera frame down. So first we lead in. You have to notice that when you're reading, you have to underline. no matter how long the sentence is, or it's just a word, you have to underline. Look, who is he? He is Peter. This boy is Peter. And if you want the students to try to encourage the students to read, you may drag the student's camera frame here and the student can read. And it's the same process. Who is she? Who is this girl? She is Jane. The girl is Jane. Jane. Then you drag the student's camera down here while pressing the control or command on your keyboard and let that student read. And when you're switching to different slides, please use the click button on the top of the teaching tool. And on this slide, you may notice that we have the tips icon here on the bottom right. If you don't know how to guide the students or how to teach, you may click the tips and there will be teaching tips. Focus on the new word and learn to read. So you don't have to spend too much time on each different slides. If you find that the student a little bit bored, you don't have to wait for the students to read or to force the students to read. We just move on. Because this teaching material is also a little bit repetitive because we want to set the students into different slides, into different interactions or games to help the students to remember. So while we're reading, we underline the word and we let the student repeat and we move on. The first game is Build a Bridge. And if you don't know how to play this game, you can click the tips. But the point is, we would like you to make the fully preparation before the lesson starts, because there are going to be a lot of games and with different ways of playing with the students. So the preparation is much more important than before. So in this game, review the words in the game. Those words are the ones we have just learned with the student. And click on the word that the student could read, and the brick would fall to build a bridge. When all the bricks are ready, click on the little man to go through the bridge, then succeed. We move on to the next slide. So here, you can click the first, let the student read. We click the dog, and there's another video introduce you all the games. And this is the end of the part 1. We move on to the part 2, the guide to reading. In the part 2, we have to switch to another classroom because you have finished the first 30 minutes lesson in the first classroom. You have to move on to the other classroom. There's gonna be a 5 minutes break. It's okay if you can't finish the first slide in 30 minutes. Then we continue learning the rest of the part 1 in the new classroom. Please don't extend the time of the class because you have to take a break, and so do the students. And if you finish the first lesson, the first part in the first lesson on time, then we move on to this reading and comprehension part. We have to open the rest teaching materials. So the dog has a bone. In this material, all of the slides are the different exercises. And the type are the same. It gives you a sentence and asks you a question and let the student make the choice. But the point is the process. We don't have to finish all the slides within 30 minutes. Especially in the exercise part, because those slides are for the best students. Most of the students will not finish all the slides within 30 minutes. The most important part is how we guide the students. We want the student to practice in the best way, not the fastest way. So first, the process is read the sentence first. While you're reading, we underline. The dog has a bone. And then ask the question to the students. What does the dog have? Does the dog have a ball, or does the dog have a bone? The dog has a bone. Great. And you gave the trophy to the student who gives you the correct answer. And there's another game for the student. We call it bonus time. So we have different kinds of bonus time teaching materials. In this one, you can let the student to choose the different box. And we click on the box. There might be no treat, or there might be trophies. So the trophies are very rare for the students. We can't give the students 5 trophies with 1 correct answer. We only follow the result of the bonus time. So when do we use the bonus time? We don't play the game from the beginning, from the first box to the last box. No. We only play this game when you find the student is a little bit distracted or a little bit tired. It might be a challenge for the kids to sit still for the 60 minutes. It's the same to the next slide. We read the sentence first, read the question on the second step, and we circle the answer and circle the evidence in the sentence. For example, Sid has a fish. What does Sid have? Does Sid have a fish, or does Sid have a dog? Yeah, a fish. Then we go back to circle the fish in a sentence. Sid has a fish. And then we move on. If the student is advanced enough, you can encourage the student to read the sentence for you and his partner. She has an apple. What does she have? An apple, or does she have an egg? An apple, that's great. She has an apple. And who gives me the correct answer? I'll give you a bonus. Now choose the box you want. Which one? This one? Let's see what's inside. Oh, no treat. Then we don't give the trophy to the student and we move on. And this is how we teach the WR1 student. And now let's come to the WR2. In the WR2, there are the 2 parts, one for the main reading part, the part 2 for the second lesson, the guide reading. And we have the bonus time, we have a video, and we have an extra part. So how do we use the video? So the teacher is supposed to enter the classroom ahead of time for 1 or 2 minutes. After you enter the classroom, you disable your microphone, you disable your camera, and then you start playing the video for the students. It's like the entertainment before the lesson. And in between the 2 classes, after the first lesson, you quit the first classroom and you enter the second classroom, you continue playing the video for the students. You don't have to play the video from the beginning to the end. You pause the video at the class time and start teaching. So here's the part 1 of the WR2 Day 1 lesson. It's the same. You drag the student camera down in the independent reading part and let the student read. While you're reading, you underline, you introduce the picture to the student. He is Peter. This boy is Peter. Peter. Now you try Peter. Get the student camera down and let the student read. Also, there might be some games, like this one. Roll the dice. What are they? Ball. You can let the student read. Click to roll the dice and read the nouns. And in the guide reading part for the second lesson, it's still the reading and comprehension. You guide the student in the same way. Encourage the student to read the sentence first and then you ask the question and let the student make the correct choice. If the student is not good enough to read the whole sentence, you read for the student and ask the question and go back to the original sentence to find the evidence. A bird is in the tree. What is in the tree? A cat is in the tree or a bird is in the tree? Correct, a bird is in the tree. A bird is in the tree. And then we move on. So this is how we guide the students in the WR2. Now let's move on to the WR3. In the WR3 lesson, you may find that there are more materials. So only the GR guided reading is for the second lesson. So this one means you have to finish the part 1 and the part 2 teaching material in the first 30 minutes lesson. Now let's have a look. Open them all first and switch to the click button. Oh, it's the same way of teaching. Underline while reading. Here is Peter. Who is Peter? This boy is Peter. And here is Jane. Who is Jane? The girl is Jane. Here is Pat, the dog. Who is Pat? Here is the Pat, the dog. And then you drag the student's camera down to let them read, and then we move on. We don't waste the time. If you find the student is not good enough to repeat, and then we still move on because we have plenty of time for the students to practice. And here we still click. Click to present the new word, learn to read and help understand. With TPR, with repeating, and here we can authorize the student and let them make choice. And we still have to finish the part 2, so we don't waste the time in the first part. And still, we do the simple interactions with the students. And of course, we have the games. But it's okay, I will introduce you how to play all the games in another video. And now we move on to the GR part. Still, we only use the bonus time in the second lesson, which is for the GR part. In this lesson, it is still this one. Trick or treat. Okay, you let the student choose and then you click that out, unveil that box. So here's the reading part. You may see that the article is a little bit longer compared with the WR1 level, of course. The WR2 students are in the K2B level in the major course. So if you find the students not good enough to read still, you read for the students. The monster. I can see a little monster. He likes to read. I like to read too. And then we move on to the exercises. I can see a little monster. He likes to read. I like to read too. So if you read in the previous slide by yourself, and you may ask the student to read here on this slide. If you let the student read on the first slide, and then you can read fast for the student on this slide, and then we enter the exercise part. The monster has... What does the monster have? A dog, a cat, or a book? What do you see in this picture? You give the students hints. It is not that you ask the student the question and wait for the student to waste the time. No, you have to guide the student to finish the exercises fast, to provide them with ideas. So, what do you see here? What is it? The monster has a book. Great, the monster has a book, because you see the monster has a book. And then to keep the slide clean, you may delete the lines or the notes you take. And the monster likes to... What does the monster like? Does the monster like to run? Does the monster like to read? Or does the monster like to hide? Yes, The monster likes to read because it said he likes to read. That's correct. We have to take the correct choice back to the article to find the evidence to support this choice. So this is how we guide the students to finish the WR2 guide to reading. Now let's move on to the WR3. Here's the WR3 part. It's almost the same as the WR2. Still, we finish this part in this first lesson, the 2 parts, and then we move on to the guide reading part. And don't forget the bonus time. So you may ask, what is the extra part? We think that there might be some extraordinary students who can finish all the slides, including the main reading part as well as the practices, within 60 minutes or within 50 minutes. So there might be 10 minutes left for the extraordinary students. So we have the extra part in case that the teachers finish the lesson ahead of time and don't know what to do. So if you really don't know what to do, you can go back to the article and read the article for the students. Please do not waste the time drawing on the blackboard or do some other games. We go back to the article and read the article with the students, and maybe you can have some discussions. So those are the WR lessons from the WR1 to WR3. The WR4 is a little bit special. So first let's see the points in the WR1 to WR3 lessons. So first, there are 2 lessons, 2 classrooms. Don't forget to switch the classroom in the second lesson. Number 2, main reading part must be finished first and then have the practices, which is the GR part. And don't forget to use the bonus time. And number 4, no need to finish all the slides in the GR materials. And you end the class, say goodbye to the students on time. And number 5, underline while reading. And number 6, depends on the student's actual abilities. If the student is good enough, you ask the student to read, encourage them to read. And if they're not good enough, don't waste the time waiting for them. You read for the student, let the student repeat after you, and we move on. And number 7, don't spend too much time on a single slide. We always move on, and move on to finish as much slides as we can, but not for the guide reading materials. As for the exercises, we have to follow the process. Read the article or read the sentence, ask the question to the students, and find the correct answer, and find and circle the evidence out in the sentence or the article. And now let's move on to the WR4. There are different kinds of lessons in the WR4. The first is the normal one. Okay, for example, Winnie the Pooh is hungry. So it's much more like the normal major courses. And that's it. We teach. We guide the student, ask the question, circle in the picture, and here every time you see this hint, we switch to the video and start playing the video, and we pause and we come back. So this is how we teach this kind of material. And as for the GR in the second lesson, so it's gonna be a little bit different in this teaching material. So if you did not finish the material, which is the part 1 and the part 2 in the first lesson, there's 2, and in the second lesson you still open the GR material and practice with the students. After you finished practicing with the students in the GR level, in the GR teaching material, and we switch back to continue learning the story in the WR4. Only in the WR4. This is the difference between the WR4 and the WR1, 2, or 3. So it's the same process. We read for the students first. If you are afraid that the underline is gonna cover the part of the letters, you may use the line button here, the straight line tool, and we draw the lines. The dog can see the cat. Look out, cat. The cat can see the bird. Look out, bird. Read for the students. underline, or the students can read for you, and you encourage them to read, and then we move on. Here you can see the different exercises. What can the cat see? So you may read this article fast for the students again, then let the student answer the questions. And the next part is a different kind of game. So we circle and to find the dog in the picture. What is it? What is it? Dog, that's great. You let the student answer the question, and then you find the dog. How many dogs can you see in this article? I can see 1, I can see 2, I can see 3. I can see 3 dogs. And we use another color for the cat. We use the yellow for the cat. How many cats can you see? I can see 1 cat, 2 cats. I can see 3 cats. We circle the cats out. So this is how we practice with the students in this part, and we move on. It is still okay that you won't finish the GR material in the second lesson. We say goodbye, wave to the students at the end of the lesson. At the end of the time, we don't extend. And this is the first type of the GR4. And let's see the next kinds of GR4. So here in the lesson 7, you can see we finished the part 1 and part 2. We call it part 2A and part 2B in the first 30-minute lesson, and we practice the guide reading part in the second 30 minutes lesson. It is the same. We have the video and we have the teaching materials. We warm up, follow the tips, and play the video here, switch to play the video, and we pause and switch back and continue learning. The difference is here we have the different parts. The part A, we have the part B, and we have part C. So after we watched about 1-minute video, and this GIF and the sound is for the student to review what we just watched. If you want the students to listen again, you can click this button to let them listen again. And then we move on, click to unveil the part B and listen and understand. You may read for the students, or you may click this button to let it play again. Come on, stretch. What are you doing? If you don't know what does this icon stands for, there you go. We have the hint for you. So, come on, stretch. What are you doing? You may ask the student to read. You may encourage the students to read, or you can read for your students. And then we click to unveil the part C. Select the right picture for stretch. You can see this. It's pointing to stretch. Which one is stretch? The B. That's great. And this is how we teach this part of the lesson. And we have the guide reading. So in this part, the articles are going to be longer because it has been the 7th day of learning. And we ask the student to read first, or you read for the students first. We switch to the straight line tool. Liz and Jill went to the park with their mother. They loved to play at the park. I think the students can read because they are at least G2 students. And after that, we switch to the next slide and we review this lesson, do the practices. Liz and Jill are, what are they? Are they friends? Are they sisters? Are they too cold? This is funny. And then we switch to another kind of and questions. So the point is, you don't have to ask the student to type. Please do not do that. Please do not do that. This is a waste of time. We just ask the student to answer the question. And as a teacher, we underline the evidence. Who did Liz and Jill go to the park with? Liz and Jill went to the park with their mother. If the student gave you the correct answer, you may ask the student to underline the evidence for you in this article. If not, you give them the hint. You read this sentence for them and ask them to answer the question. So this is how we guide the students. And if you don't have enough time to finish all the slides, within 30 minutes in the second lesson, and we just leave it, we forget it, and see you tomorrow on the next lesson. So this is how we deal with this teaching material. So the point in the WR4 is flexible. It depends on the student. If you find the student is good, and then we discuss with the student. If we find the student is not that good, then we follow the steps, step by step, teach the students. And this is how we teach the winter holiday lesson. And the most important is to make fully preparations before each class, because there are different interactions, and the other video is to show you how to play with the games, how to play the games with the students. And that's it. Thank you for watching, and hope you can enjoy the lesson. Goodbye.